Ambassador Friedman, thanks so much for joining me today.
No, thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
The film that we're talking about today is Route 60, The Biblical Highway. It comes out in theaters September the 18th and 19th. And boy, I really enjoyed watching this. I thought it was educational, inspiring, enlightening, all of those adjectives. Of course, in the film, you and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo go down this highway and look at these biblical sites from the Old and New Testament. For those who have never been to Israel and know nothing about what we're talking about, Ambassador, is this is Route 60? Is this a modern highway? Is this an ancient road? Is it both? Kind of give us an overview of what we're talking about first.
Yeah, it's both. I mean, it really bisects biblical Israel from the north to the south. Starts in Nazareth, ends in Beersheba, with Jerusalem in the middle. Now, in ancient times, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, there was a temple in Jerusalem, and pilgrims from all over Israel would come to Jerusalem. Well, they took this road. So the road is over 3,000 years old. It didn't have asphalt and blacktop or lane markers then, but that road was there, and it was walked by, people from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, King David, King Solomon, Jesus. I mean, it was walked by everyone, and almost all the biblical stories that we learned about when we were younger and still study to this day, they all occurred, or most of them occurred, on the road or within a kilometer or two of the road. So it's very ancient, but it's also very modern today. It is a modern highway that connects most of Israel's biblical sites.
From the description of the film, it says it's 146 miles. I don't know how many kilometers that is for folks over in Europe. Stretches from Nazareth to Beersheba. One of the unique aspects, of course, of this film is that you, of course, are Orthodox Jew, and Mike Pompeo is Christian. Why did you want to get involved in this project in the first place?
Well, I had been to a good number, not all of these places, several times before I became ambassador to Israel. When I came into office, the State Department then, not under Mike Pompeo, but under his predecessor, was really of the view that this land was off limits to everybody. It was, because there were political controversies that enveloped the land and disputes as to whose it was. Nobody should go there. By going there, you're making a statement, and somehow you're entering into a political debate. And I thought just the opposite was true. I thought this needed to be above the fray. These places have stood the test of time, thousands of years, as places which are of enormous spiritual importance to tens of millions of people. Even today, the Bible sells, I think, 2,500 copies every hour. It still matters to a lot of people. And here's a chance not just to read about it, but to actually be there and see it. And so, Mike and I had the privilege that not everybody has of traveling around with security details and with, the kinds of protections that, the average tourist doesn't get. And so we could pretty much go wherever we wanted. And we wanted to show this road and all the holy sites that surround it to people that don't get a chance to see it every day. We wanted to inspire them, wanted to encourage them to come visit Israel. And mostly, I think it's to help people, reconnect to the biblical values and messages that are so directly tied to this holy land. There's nothing like being there. Woody Allen said, 90% of life is showing up, right? Showing up, it does matter. And, not everybody can, but at least we want to give people the chance to show up through watching this film.
Yeah, as theologians say, this is a faith that's formed in time and space. This is these are literal places that God
Yes.
works. What were your favorite locations to visit?
Well, I had never been before to the altar of Joshua. Just never been. I was surprised there was something I hadn't seen. And I thought this was extraordinary because it's more than 3,000 years old. It is where Joshua takes over for Moses, right? Imagine just that alone, the difficulty of doing that. Brings the Jewish people across the Jordan River, creates this Jewish nation. And he immediately, after a couple of battles, one successful, one unsuccessful, he realizes it's not just about fighting. It's about leadership. It's about faith. It's about following the God's will and earning His trust and fulfilling His covenants. And he builds an altar right on the side of a mountain. And I don't think anybody would ever find this place if it hadn't been located 20 years ago by archaeologists. So that was one, very inspiring. The other thing which I think people will find incredible is this thing called the Pilgrimage Road. It was discovered about 20 years ago. It connects the pool of Siloam to the temple. Now, people would come from all over the land of Israel in the days of the temples. And when they got there, they'd been traveling for a few days on foot, dusty area. So there was a ritual bath and the size of an Olympic swimming pool. They jump into the water, and then they have to then get up to the temple. Now, just by accident, it was discovered this intact, fully intact road and set of steps that ascend to the temple. Now, what I think is interesting to people, especially the Christian faith, it was built by Pontius Pilate in the year 30. So the probability that Jesus walked this road on his way to the temple is 100%. There's no other way to get to the temple. So you have a chance to go and immerse yourself. It's not like going to a museum. And museums are great, but in a museum, you'll see a film, you'll see a piece of parchment, a shard of glass, a piece of pottery, rocks, whatever. Here, you actually get to immerse yourself on the steps and the land and the territory that was walked by our biblical heroes. And a lot of people they set foot and they shudder because they're able to put themselves back in time and really reconnect with the roots of our faith and our values, and especially at a time when many people in the world are growing more and more disconnected, from these values, disconnected and confused about what's meaningful in life, what's important, what direction are we heading. Here's a chance to really, kind of clear your head, recharge your batteries and reconnect to your faith. And I think to me, all these places were incredibly powerful. And I've been there many times. It was still very powerful to do it again, especially to do it with Mike, who gave me the perspective, of somebody, of the Christian faith. And, all these sites are relevant to both faiths, but I think it's good to have the balance that Mike and I bring to the film.
Completely agree. I have a couple more questions for you before we close here. I'm always, I love to read our stories from Israeli newspapers about archaeology, discoveries and finds. And of course, this film touches on that. These are not necessarily new discoveries, but I'm curious from your perspective, why is the study of archaeology and the search for these locations so important to the nation of Israel and to the Jewish faith?
Well, look, the Jewish people have this incredible privilege, this opportunity that we've had for now about 75 years to fulfill the prayers that have gone unanswered for 2,000 years, right? Since the destruction of the Second Temple in the year 70, Jews have been, largely unable to return to their Holy Land, to return to Jerusalem. So we're back now, right? And there's a lot of people that wish we weren't. And a lot of this, a lot of those who wish the Jews weren't there, try to make the argument that this is a myth, that the Jewish connection to the temples, all the biblical stories, it's a myth. It never really happened. Well, when you can prove that it really did happen, it is powerful. It wasn't really relevant to me. I believed it anyway. If you're someone of faith, I don't think you need to have an archaeologist tell you that your faith is valid, but it does mean something to some people, and I think that's important. I mean, the oddest argument is that Palestinians will say that Jews have no connection to the Holy Land, but Christians do. Now that argument falls on its head because the connection of the Christians to the Holy Land is through Jesus. Jesus, came to the temple as a Jew. So, Christianity didn't start until after Jesus' death. So, it's a faulty argument, but it's enmeshed in the politics, and the politics there are very complicated. So, if we can find scientific proof, great. For me, it's kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah, I heard a theologian one time say, it doesn't confirm my faith, it affirms my faith.
Right, right, exactly.
Important distinction there. As we close here, how do you want viewers to be impacted by this film? What do you want viewers to think about as they're watching it?
Well, the most important thing is I'd like viewers to understand that their faith, that there is a place in the world that animates their faith. Their faith is not hypothetical. It's not theoretical. It's not just contained in a book. That the covenants that God made to the Jewish people, the wisdom and the message that Christians take from Jesus, and his resurrection, these things actually happened, or at least the places where they happened are there to be seen, to be experienced, and to be relived. And you can bring the Bible back to life by coming to these places. And I think when you can do that, as personally, in my own personal experience, it's massively more powerful than studying. I studied, I went to a Jewish yeshiva my whole life until I started college. Studied all these things. I can tell you, studied it in the original, studied it in Hebrew, studied it, intensely, maybe 5-6 hours a day. Doesn't compare to being there and experiencing it directly. It's a very, very affirming experience that makes you feel that all the things you believe in, all the things you care about are real.
The film is Route 60, The Biblical Highway. It's in theaters September the 18th and 19th. We've been speaking to David Friedman, the former ambassador to Israel. Ambassador Friedman, thank you so much.
Thank you. And just for tickets, if you don't mind my adding, Route 60, ROUTE 60.movie. You can type in your zip code. It'll tell you the closest theater, and you can buy tickets online.
Sounds good. We'll check it out. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mel. Appreciate it very much.